Today I'm going to read Hairy Nose, Itchy Butt to you. It's by Elizabeth Frankel and Gary Duncan. For the little ones, may they have the courage to face their challenges. Late one afternoon, down in the ground, Hairy Nose Wombat woke up with a frown. He stretched and he yawned, rubbed his eyes and scratched his ear. Then a very strange sensation came over his rear. With an itchy, scratchy grumble and groan, a shudder and a shake, a snort and a moan, a grunt and a huff and a splittery splut, he said, "I really need to scratch my butt." He couldn't reach round with his big hairy nose, and his legs were quite short, as far as legs go. Then he had an idea. It was quite plain to see. He could rub his butt on his favourite scratch tree. It was not far away, just beyond the next rise, so he hurried on over, but oh, to his surprise, it was gone! His favourite scratch tree had been chopped at the base. There was not one limb left. It was gone from the place. With an itchy, scratchy grumble and groan, a shudder and a shake, a grunt, a snort and a moan, a grunt and a huff and a splittery splut, he said, "I really need to scratch my butt." And then he remembered a little salt bush. He could just back on up and give a rub and a push. It was not far away, just beyond the next rise, so he hurried on over, but to his surprise, it was gone. Not a sign of the salt bush. He looked everywhere. There were just a few sticks, and the ground was all bare. With an itchy, scratchy grumble and groan, a shudder and a shake, a snort and a moan, a grunt and a huff and a splittery splut, he said, "I really need to scratch my butt." He recalled a big log, hollow and old. They are perfect for itching and scratching, I'm told. It was not far away, just beyond the next rise, so he hurried on over, but to his surprise, it was gone. The old log had vanished. It was nowhere to be found. He could see where it once lay, by a dent in the ground. With an itchy, scratchy grumble and groan, a shudder and a shake, a snort and a moan, a grunt and a huff and a splittery splut, he said, "I really need to scratch my butt." And then he remembered an old Marty stump. That would be perfect to fix up his rump. It was not far away, just beyond the next rise, so he hurried on over, but to his surprise, here we go. It was gone. The hairy-nosed wombat yelled, "What a bad dream!" The old Marty stump was nowhere to be seen. With an itchy, scratchy grumble and groan, a shudder and a shake, a snort and a moan, a grunt and a huff and a splittery splut, he said, "I really need to scratch my butt." Then he recalled a big limestone boulder. He had used it before for an itch on his shoulder. It was not far away, just beyond the next rise, so he hurried on over, but to his surprise, that's right, it was gone. He just couldn't believe it. The boulder was gone too. He cried, "What's a hairy-nosed wombat to do? I've run out of ideas to scratch my rear end. I'll just guess I'll go back to my burrow again." His butt was still itchy. He felt tired and alone. So he turned around sadly and headed for home. Over each rise he stopped back on the double, but when he got home there was terrible trouble. His burrow was gone. The mound and the burrow where he lived all his life were being bulldozed and flattened. This was serious strife. They had come before daybreak, keen for an early start. Helplessly he watched, as with an ache in his heart. As his home disappeared, he let out a wail. This was so much worse than an itch in his tail. Where would he live? He gazed up at the sky. He lifted his hairy nose and started to cry. But then... Hello, Hairy-Nosed Wombat. I was just passing by. Why are you sad? Why do you cry? I don't know what... So he told her, I don't know what to do. I don't know what to say. First my butt had an itch. It would not go away. Then my scratching things vanished. They just disappeared. One after another, it was totally weird. I headed on home, got the most awful fright. My burrow was gone and it soon will be light. I have always lived here, but one thing is for sure. There is nowhere that I can stay here anymore. She replied, don't worry, friend. Please don't be sad. Although I can see why you're feeling so bad. Your home has been ruined. It's no good for you now. Come with me to my place. I'll show you how. There are log stumps and bushes and a favourite scratch tree. We'll arrive just before sunup. Just follow me. She seemed very kind and her home sounded nice, so he decided to take her advice. It was not far away, just beyond the next rise, so they hurried on over. But to his surprise... Oh no! Don't worry, she said, I've done this before. If we're careful and quick, we can make it for sure. They watched and they waited for the traffic to slow. Then came a gap. 1, 2, 3, go! Oh, better show you that picture. Careful, quick. She was right, they had made it. Her home looked divine. He felt very safe as they passed by the sign. The sign says Utopia Conservation Park, Hairy-Nosed Wombat Sanctuary. Hairy-Nosed Wombat no longer felt alone. He decided to stay. This would be his new home. She said, this is my burrow, you can sleep in it too. But before his night ended, there was one thing to do. With an itchy, scratchy grumble and groan, a shudder and a shake, a snort and a moan, a grunt and a huff and a splittery splut, he said, I finally get to scratch my butt. And there he is, Wombat, asleep in his burrow.